All right. Good morning, world. Welcome to the July 8th, 2021 Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City's virtual hearing. My name is Nicholas Blendy, and I'm the Deputy Executive Secretary, and will be running the WebEx virtual hearing today. As you can see on your screens, we're going to go over a few things before we get to the docket. As folks are aware who are in the room and watching online, we are using the WebEx platform, similar to what the Board of Estimates and City Council and Planning Department have been doing since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Essentially, WebEx is a web-based platform that requires a laptop, smartphone, or similar device with camera and microphone capabilities. We ask any member of the public who wishes to participate in today's WebEx meeting to look at the link that is up on the screen and also available on our website, and the access code and password information is there. We suggest that if you are going to use your smartphone or iPad or similar device, that you have downloaded the app. Lord knows it takes about 15 minutes for it to function right when I start my computer, and we encourage everybody else to be cognizant of that. If you want to just listen in on the hearing, the phone number and access code are also available. And lastly, this is running live on Charm TV 25, which is also streaming on the Charm TV Baltimore website. All materials, evidence, and related items for today's hearing are available on the Board of Liquor License Commissioners webpage under the hearing schedule hyperlink for today's date, July 8th, 2021. The board observes a 48-hour rule for virtual online hearings, meaning that any evidence beyond testimony that should have been submitted for the board's consideration needed to have been submitted by 11 a.m. this past Tuesday, July 6th, to our Assistant Executive Secretary, Ms. Stacey Russell. And in addition, excuse me, to things being available online, all of the licensees who are on the docket today have either been served notice by our inspector prior to today's hearing in accordance with what's required by state law. Today's procedures, I'm reading the instructions. I'll also be calling the cases. When I call the case generally in the order, the chair will then ask the licensee, his or her representative, and any and all Board of Liquor License Commissioner personnel and any other witnesses to please identify themselves and be sworn in by the court reporter. I will then call the case. The board will conduct an evidentiary hearing, which will include the calling of witnesses, hearing testimony, and reviewing documents entered into the record to determine whether or not a violation occurred. Upon the conclusion of the hearing, which may include closing arguments by the licensee or a representative, the board will vote to determine whether or not a violation occurred. If the board finds a violation has occurred, the board may hear additional testimony or review other evidence prior to imposing a sentence. The board will provide an opportunity to the general public to present testimony at the mitigation phase. And what I will ask at that point is, if you are a member of the public and you wish to provide such testimony, please use the raise your hand feature on the WebEx platform. If you do and I recognize you, prior to you being able to testify, you will need to be sworn in. You must have video in order for the court reporter to be able to swear you. And you are potentially subject to any questions being asked of you by the board or any cross-examination by a licensee or their representative. At the conclusion of hearing all the evidence and testimony and then the mitigation phase, the board will make a sentencing determination, which may include a fine, a suspension, or the revocation of a license. The ground rules for today's hearing: if you are not speaking, please mute yourself in order to minimize feedback and noise. When speaking, please do identify yourself and state the spelling of your name for our court reporter. We do remind you again that there is a court reporter taking a recording of this, as well as this event is running live on Charm TV. Accordingly, any individual who uses profanity, is disrespectful or unruly may be expelled from the virtual hearing, and all attendees who wish to testify must be sworn. We are taking no physical evidence today, and the last thing is not relevant because there aren't any applications being heard today. So we remind you to please be prepared, please be present, not be multitasking, so when your case is called, you're available. Try and be in a good quiet space with good light and a strong internet connection. And lastly, as always, we ask you to please be patient with the technology, with us, with others, and as we get through the virtual hearing process today. With that said, Mr. Chairman, that concludes the opening. I do note that there is the last item on the docket, item number 7, the Baltimore Eagle has been postponed pursuant to a timely request and is going to be heard at a later date. And then, Mr. Chairman, if I may, there is a request from one of the licensees to be heard on a postponement request, if I can go out of order.
Let's do it. Okay.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Dixon, I am moving you into the panel, and let me see if I can see you. I'm unmuting you, and if you, as Mr. Page has pointed out, you may now be able to hopefully turn on your camera, and I'm going to note. Hello? Okay, I see you. I will now read your case, which is the, I think, 4th item. Yeah. Item number 4 on the docket is Terrence Dixon, New Terra Cafe LLC, trading as New Terra Cafe, 101 East 25th Street. This establishment has been charged with 3 violations of the rules. And Mr. Chairman, we did receive from Mr. Dixon's counsel a letter requesting postponement, and I will turn it over to you, Mr. Chair. Hopefully, Mr. Dixon can be heard.
Good morning. Are you there, Mr. Dixon? I don't hear him.
Yeah. I see.
Mr. Blendy, can you tell us what the letter said?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The board received the communication from Mr. Dixon's counsel, Robert Fulton DeShiel, and he was engaged to represent Mr. Dixon on this matter. He did not realize until a very late date that Mr. Dixon did not submit a postponement, so it was submitted yesterday, and if the board will entertain, no postponement has been requested yet, and if the board will grant a postponement, it would be moved to a later docket.
Okay. And can we get it in fairly soon?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have 3 dates upcoming in later in July and 2 early in August, so we can set it in one of those dates. We'll talk to Mr. Dixon's counsel to make sure everyone's available.
All right. In that case, I grant. Thank you.
Okay. Apologies for not being able to hear you, Mr. Dixon, but your postponement has been granted by the board. With that said, Mr. Chairman, move on.
Yes, please.
All right. Why won't this be quiet? Sorry, I'm getting feedback. All right, I think I fixed that. First item before the board today is Elon Kotz, Ordo Management LLC, trading as Ordo, 1709 North Charles Street, Suite 101, Baltimore, Maryland 21201. Licensee is the holder of a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license. Licensee has been charged with a violation of Rule 4.06, alcoholic beverage containers, and Rule 4.16, illegal conduct. This is based on information that we received from a Field Enforcement Division Inspector, Kevin Burley. I am moving him into the panel, and Mr. Elon Kotz, and I believe Mr. Fogelman is counsel, and he has been moved in. With that said, Mr. Chairman, everyone should be in the panel at this time.
All right, Mr. Fogelman, you identify yourself for the record, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Honor. Stephen W. Fogelman on behalf of licensee.
Good morning. Will this be admissions or denials, Mr. Fogelman?
This will be an admission.
Okay, you want to proffer for us?
Yeah, very quickly, thank you. I think it's uncontroverted that the genesis of this inspection was an anonymous complaint that the licensee had possessed some kind of illegal, exotic, foreign liquor at the establishment. It turned out that was unfounded. Inspector Burley gave a very thorough inspection of the premises, lasted about 40 minutes, went through all the liquor. Mr. Laporta, bar manager, Nicholas Laporta, was extremely cooperative with him. And quite frankly, they were 99% compliant with the inspection. But Mr. Laporta noticed an open bottle of Grey Goose and a bigger bottle of Grey Goose. I'm sorry, Inspector Burley noticed it. Mr. Laporta explained to the inspector, very honestly, that he had emptied the contents of a larger bottle of the same brand of spirits into a smaller bottle of the same brand of spirits for ease of use at the busy bar station. He also indicated that he'd only done this once, and only because the distributor was unable to bring that product in a 750 milliliter bottle that week as a result of full reopenings and supply and chain problems. So this is a place with no violations whatsoever. It's quite frankly kind of a technical violation, certainly no harm to the community. There was no dilution of a product, even though 6313 talks about tampering. This really wasn't tampering, but they understand it is a technical violation. I'd posit that 90% of the bar managers in this city don't know that you can't put it in a smaller bottle if you needed to, if you couldn't get a smaller bottle. But again, good licensees, I thank you.
Okay, the commissioners have any questions?
I have no questions.
No questions.
Do we have public comment, Mr. Blunt?
If any member of the public wishes to be heard on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature on the WebEx platform. Checking, Mr. Chairman, I do not see anyone who has used the raise your hand feature.
Thank you. Mr. Fogelman, now on the basis of the materials contained in the charging documents and your admission on behalf of your client, as well as the proffer that you made, explanation of what occurred, I would find a violation of Rule 4.06 on May 6, 2021, and the violation of Rule 4.16 on May 6, 2021. Recognizing that there was some misunderstanding and confusion, I would impose a nominal fine of $25 as to each of the violations for a total of $50 and give the licensee 30 days to make the payment. Commissioners?
Commissioner Guy, in consideration of the testimony and evidence presented to the board this morning and the proffer of Mr. Fogelman, I too would also find violation of Rule 4.06 alcoholic beverage container and violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct, both taking place on May the 6th, 2021. I would find in violation. I concur with the fine of $25 for each offense.
Thank you.
Based upon the charging document, the proffer, and the admission from Mr. Fogelman, I too would find a violation of Rule 4.06 alcoholic beverage containers on May 6, 2021, concur with the imposition of a $25 fine, and also find a violation of Rule 4.16 on May 6, 2021, and also concur with the imposition of a $25 fine.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Ms. Russell?
I'd call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Maryland State Comptroller Report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fogelman.
Thank you.
That concludes this hearing before the board today. Licensee will receive follow-up correspondence from the board on how to pay the fine that were assessed today. Mr. Chairman, are you ready for the next hearing?
Yes.
Oh, and thank you, Mr. Burley, for participating today and being available from the FED. The next matter before the board is licensee Justin Hunt, Lamont Macy, and Brooke Stanley, Dream It Legacy Bar and Bistro, LLC, trading as Dream It Legacy Bar and Bistro, located at 10 South Calvert Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21202. Licensee is holder of a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, and licensee charged with 2 violations of the rules emanating from the same incident on June 14th, 2021. Rule 3.08, sanitation and safety, and Rule 3.12, general welfare. Licensee is represented by Mr. Kadensky, who I'm moving into the panel at the moment. And it appears that Inspectors Robinson and Tudhope are, if needed, the inspectors on the matter. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Kadensky, you want to identify yourself for the record, please?
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky, 320 North Charles Street, representing the licensees.
Mr. Kadensky, will be an admission or denial?
I'm going to make it an admission with a explanation.
That's fine. You want to give us the explanation, please?
Well, if you look at the record of this establishment, they had just gotten their license probably May the 14th. They've been they waited god awful long to get this thing, and they were operating, and they had made arrangements with a individual to pick up on a daily basis their trash. For whatever reason, on the date, it rained and the fellow didn't come. They made arrangements right after that to hire commercial, and Republic is the waste management company. So they took care of that. They also have paid $100 fine for an environmental fine. And I don't think that's going to happen again. Maybe they were just victims of their own prosperity. They're just opening up when they waited that long.
Okay. Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions?
I have no questions.
One question, Mr. Kadensky, you mentioned a $100 fine. Was that something levied by the Environmental Control Board?
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Greenfield, and they've already paid it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have public comment, Mr. Blendy?
Apologies for the fire truck in the background. If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, would you please use the raise your hand feature in the WebEx platform? Mr. Chairman, I do not see any member of the public who wishes to testify.
All right, thank you. Mr. Kadensky, then on the basis of the materials contained in the charging document, your admission on behalf of the client and your explanation. And again, like the last case, taking in view the fact that there's been no history of violations, and also here that they've already paid a fine of $100, I would find a violation of Rule 4.308 on June 14, 2021, and a violation of Rule 3.12 on June 14, 2021. I'd impose nominal fines of $25 as to each and give them 30 days to pay. Commissioners?
Commissioner Guy, in consideration of the proffer of Mr. Kadensky and the evidence presented before the board this morning, I also would find a violation of Rule 3.08, sanitation and safety, and violation of Rule 3.12, general welfare, both taking place on June 14th, 2021, and I concur with the fine of $25 for each offense, payable in 30 days.
Based upon the charging documents, the proffer from Mr. Kadensky and his admission with explanation, I too would find a violation of Rule 3.08 on June 14, 2021, as well as a violation of Rule 3.12 on June 14, 2021. Given the fact that this licensee has already paid a fine to the Environmental Control Board, I too would impose a nominal fine of $25 for each violation.
Thank you. Ms. Russell?
My post is for the record. Violation report, Inspector Robinson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kadensky.
All right.
That concludes this matter before the board. Licensee will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency on how to pay the fine. Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, ready for the next matter?
Yes, sir.
So, sorry,
I'm sorry?
Mr. Kadensky, who was the person with you for this one?
Mr. Justin Hunt.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Kadensky is counsel for this next matter as well. The next matter before the board, licensee Ganga Prasad Adhikari, Ram BKC, and Joshua AP Patel, 517 Broadway LLC, trading as Main Street Bar and Liquors, 3724 Eastern Avenue, 21224. Licensee holds a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, and licensee has been charged with 3 violations of the rules emanating from the same incident on April 4th, 2021. Violation of Rule 3.12 General Welfare, a violation of Rule 4.16 Illegal Conduct, and a violation of Rule 4.14 Live Entertainment without authorization. Inspectors Jordan and Agent Hahn are the BLC staff if needed.
Okay. Mr. Kadensky?
Once again, for the record, Melvin J. Kadensky, 320 North Charles Street, representing the licensee, which is seated next to me at this time.
And which gentleman is that next to you?
Mr. Adhikari.
Okay. And is this going to be an admission or denial, Mr. Kadensky?
I wish I could fight some of these. No, it'll be an admission.
Okay. Do you want to explain what happened?
Well, I think if you look at the record, they are new licensees, just got the license in, I think, January. And I think they were overwhelmed with the amount of these executive orders that were coming out. And I think prior to this one in March, there was a new one. They were under the impression that they could go to 100%, although it was later changed to 100%. And regarding the live entertainment, they had come to me to file an application, but they hadn't got zoning approval for live entertainment. That's still in the process. And they had an event for, as they indicated, somebody was having a little party there. So that's generally the explanation that they now know. Of course, we're now at 100%. We're going to get the live entertainment, hopefully for zoning, and we can come back. But that would be the explanation here.
Okay. Thank you. The commissioners have questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Do we have public comment, Mr. Bundy?
If any member of the public wishes to be heard on this matter before the board, please use the raise your hand feature in the WebEx platform. Mr. Chair, I do not see any member of the public who wishes to testify.
Okay. On the basis then of the materials contained in the charging documents, the admissions entered on behalf of the client by Mr. Kadensky, as well as his explanation with respect to these, I find violations of Rule 3.12, Rule 4.16, and Rule 4.14, all on April 4, 2021. I recognize that these executive orders did get confusing. I don't know that they were so confusing that they couldn't understand that they weren't yet at full capacity, or that they didn't yet have the license. I'd impose a fine of $25 as to the first violation, $25 as to the second, and a $50 fine as to the third, for $100 to be paid within 30 days. Commissioners?
Commissioner Guy, in consideration of the proffer of Mr. Kadensky and the evidence presented before the board this morning, I too would also vote to find violation of Rule 3.12 General Welfare, violation of Rule 4.16 Illegal Conduct, and violation of Rule 4.14 Live Entertainment without authorization. And I also concur with the fine of $25 for the first 2 offenses, all 3 of them taking place on April 4th, 2021. I concur with the fine of $25 for the first 2 and $50 for the violation of Rule 4.14 Live Entertainment without authorization, due in 30 days.
Based upon the charging document, the admission and the proffer from Mr. Kadensky, I too find a violation of Rule 3.12 on April 4th and concur with the imposition of a $25 fine. I also find a violation of Rule 4.16 on April 4th, 2021, and concur with the imposition of a $25 fine. I also find a violation of Rule 4.14 on our April 4th, 2021, and concur with the imposition of a $50 fine.
Thank you. Ms. Russell?
I call exhibits for the record. Exhibit number 1, investigation report, Inspector Jordan. Exhibit number 2, Mayor's Executive Order dated 3/26/21.
Thank you, Mr. Kadensky.
All right. Thank you very much.
That concludes this matter before the board. Licensee will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency on how to pay the fines assessed today.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item was the postponement that you were granted. So are you ready to move on to the next item on the docket after that?
Yes.
The next item before the board this morning, licensee Christine Bogosh and Thomas A. Welsh Jr., Plug Uglies Hospitality Group LLC, trading as Cowboy Rose Saloon and Chop House, located at 29 O'Donnell Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21224. The licensee is the holder of a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license and has been charged with 2 violations of the rules stemming from a similar executive order violation from March 13th, 2021, violation of Rule 3.12 General Welfare, and violation of Rule 4.16 Illegal Conduct. I do not believe licensee is represented by counsel, and I'm moving who is Mark Bogosh in is what it appears on the panel. So hopefully they can be heard now, Mr. Chair.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear?
Are you there, Mr. Bogosh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And are you going to be admitting or denying these violations?
Admitting.
Okay. Let's swear you in.
Okay, if you can just turn on your video, Mr. Bogosh.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be available to you now that you've been moved into the panel.
Can you see me?
Okay. Please raise your right hand. Thanks. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bogosh, you want to tell us what happened on March 13th?
Yeah, with the opening and closing, we were quite frankly unprepared to handle the influx of patients that we had when we were able to reopen. We subsequently corrected any problems we had on multiple visits, approximately 4 to 5 multiple visits every subsequent weekend, and we had no continuing violations or problems. I am admitting that I believe we were over the 25% limit, and it is 100% our fault, but we immediately corrected it and had no problems on multiple additional visits.
Okay, thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions?
No questions.
Were they cooperative to the inspectors? I don't know if we have to swear them in.
I mean, according to the charging document and the inspector's report that's before you, it appears that they were cooperative with the inspector.
Okay, thank you. And then I'll strike my question. Thank you.
All right, do we have public comment, Mr. Blendy?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter before the board, please use the raise your hand feature. Mr. Chair, I do not see anyone who wishes to testify.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bogosh, then on the basis of the materials contained in the charging documents and your admission of these violations, as well as your testimony and explanation, I find a violation of Rule 3.12 on March 13, 2021, and a violation of Rule 4.16 on March 13, 2021. I note that you've had this license for about 11 years and with only 1 prior violation, and that there was confusion about these executive orders. And you were candid about being unprepared. So I'd impose $25 fines as to each of these for a total of $50. I'd give you 30 days to pay. Commissioners?
Commissioner Guy, in consideration of the testimony and evidence presented to the board in this case, I found the licensee in violation of Rule 3.12 General Welfare and violation of Rule 4.16 Illegal Conduct, both taking place on March 13th, 2021. And I concur with the fine of $25 for each offense, payable in 30 days.
Based upon the charging documents, the testimony and admission from Mr. Bogosh, I too would find a violation of Rule 3.12 on March 13, 2021, and concur with the imposition of a $25 fine. I also find a violation of Rule 4.16 on March 13, 2021, and concur with the imposition of a $25 fine.
Ms. Russell?
Like to call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Violation Report, Inspector Jordan. Board Exhibit 2, Mayor's Executive Order dated 3/12/21.
Thank you, Mr. Bogosh.
Thank you.
Licensee, that concludes this matter before the board. Licensee will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on where to pay the fines assessed today. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Mr. Chair, is the board ready for the final item for today?
Yes, please.
The last item before the board today, licensee Anastasia Vasilakopoulos, Ejira LLC, trading as Speakeasy Saloon, 2840 O'Donnell Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21224. A licensee holds a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, and licensee is charged with 2 violations of the the rules relating to the mayor's executive order from the same date, March 13th, 2021. A violation of Rule 3.12 General Welfare, and a violation of Rule 4.16 Illegal Conduct. Inspectors Jordan and Agent Hahn are on the report, and licensee should be in the panel, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Ms. I'm sorry, Ms. Vasilakopoulos, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
All right, it's Vasilakopoulos.
This is Vasilios Vasilakopoulos.
Oh, sorry, Vasilios. My apologies.
Or Bill. It's fine.
And are you related to Anastasia?
I am her son, and I am the manager, and I am the alcohol awareness person on the license.
Could you turn on your camera?
I don't have a camera on my phone.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a camera on my computer. I'm trying to join in on my phone. Are you? Okay.
All right. I've moved the other version of you that I saw into the panel.
All right. Did you?
Are we able to swear?
Am I there? Okay.
Can we swear Mr. Vasilakopoulos?
Okay. Looking for his video.
Yeah. He shows up now twice, I think.
Okay, I see the one without a video, and yeah, I don't see video yet.
Okay. All right. I'm there. I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see
All right.
now. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Do you wish to admit or deny these violations?
I do admit.
Okay. Do you want to explain what happened on March 13th?
Just like the previous case, it was a very nice day, and we were overwhelmed. Around the state, some of the restrictions were being relaxed, and people were coming out, and we were just overwhelmed. Our place really isn't that busy, and the inspectors were all about we're around and about the neighborhood there, and then everybody just rushed. We were the last ones, I guess, on the inspector's list, and then everybody just rushed into our place, while they were leaving the other places.
Okay. Do the commissioners have any questions?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No questions.
No questions.
No, I don't have any questions.
Do we have public comment?
If any member of the public wishes to testify on this matter, please use the raise your hand feature in the WebEx platform. Mr. Chair, I don't see any member of the public who wishes to testify.
Mr. Vasilopoulos, then, on the basis of the materials contained in the charging documents, your admissions of the violations, as well as your testimony concerning what occurred on March 13, 2021, I find a violation of Rule 3.12 and a violation of Rule 4.16 on March 13, 2021. I accept your explanation, and you've had this license now since 2013 with only one prior violation. So, like the others, I'd show some leniency and impose nominal fines of $25 as to each, and give you 30 days to pay. Commissioners?
Commissioner Goss, in consideration of the testimony and the evidence presented to the board in this case this morning, I also found the licensee in violation of Rule 3.12, General Welfare, and violation of Rule 4.16, Illegal Conduct, both taking place on March 13th, 2021. I concur with the fine of $25 for each offense payable in 30 days.
Based upon the charging document, the admission from Bill and his testimony, I too find a violation of Rule 3.12 on March 13, 2021, and concur with the imposition of a $25 fine. I also find a violation of Rule 4.16 on March 13, 2021, and concur with the imposition of a $25 fine.
Thank you. Ms. Russell?
I call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, violation report, Inspector Jordan. Board Exhibit 2, Mayor's executive order dated 3/12/21.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That concludes this matter before the board. Licensee will receive follow-up correspondence from this agency with instructions on how to pay the fine. Mr. Chairman, that concludes all matters before the board today. If you have nothing further, I can read the adjournment announcement.
Please do.
This board will be in recess until Thursday, July 29th, 2021. The board will post on our website, provide notice to applicants and or attorneys, and conduct a virtual hearing on this date. If a licensee or any member of the public has any questions, please call our office at 410-396-4377 between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. If any questions or concerns you have on this or any other matter. That is all I have for the board today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bundy. So thank you to the commissioners and to the staff of the licensed commissioners, especially to those inspectors and others who didn't have an opportunity to testify today but appeared for the hearings. I wish everybody a happy 4th that we just had, and we'll see you on July 29th. Thank you.
Thank you.